Hello? Hello, I think we're recording. Okay. Hello everyone. Hello patrons. Just decided to do a video on drum processing today. So there's a comment in the last video that I made just saying that they wanted individual drum processing tips, and I thought I'd go over that. And I have a really cool break that I made for a new track that I've just finished. So I probably shouldn't be using this one, but I really like the break. It's ticks all the boxes for me. It's cool, it's rolly, it's got lots of cool layers and stuff like that, and yeah, I'll play it through and then we'll go over the individual elements and then we'll take it from there. So I'm going to play the break all the way through and then yeah, we'll go dive in straight in. Ooh, start it from the beginning. You get the idea? So that's the break. And yeah, I had a bit of a weird approach with this. I wanted, it's kind of a liquid tune. Obviously I've muted all the rest of the elements that are in here, but I wanted to go for something a bit more analog, organic sounding, whilst retaining digital production, you know, having nice smooth transients and just a mix of both really. So I think it's quite a cool break, and we'll start off with the kick, I guess. Oh, I'm not sure what that is. That's a synth. So this is the first thing I've got. Here's the kick. There we go. Okay. Here we go. So this is the kick. So this is with no processing. I'm just going to play this little loop here. So it's quite an odd sounding kick drum, and this is because before I actually ran this through, I started doing this thing where I run kick drums through spring reverbs, like this one here, and I then resample it from the complete wet signal from that, and then make it mono, and then EQ again, and you get these really bouncy sounding kick drums. So I'll tell you what, I'll actually do that now. I'll just get a kick drum and you can hear what that sounds like. So it sounds a bit more. So here's just a kick drum. I'll just chuck that on a mixer channel. So this is the kick drum. And then I'll take a spring reverb like this one. It's the Valhalla Plate one. There's a preset actually you can use. Like that. So that's just the kick drum on its own. And this is with the reverb. So then what I'll do is I'll slap on an EQ and basically EQ out all the low end. Like this. Make that lower part mono, and then boost the mids up. And then I'll compress it a little bit just to bring up the volume. And that's it. So that's how I made the kick drum in this track. But what I've done is I've done some volume shaping. So what I do with my drums a lot is I'll play around with this. FL's got a little sampler window here, and you can change the fade in and out time of the sample, and yeah, like the sample start time and all that kind of stuff. So I like a little tight kick drums, and obviously with these big spring reverb kick drums, that's the original sample. So I basically completely faded out the end of the sample, so I had this. So I had something a bit nicer to work with because there's a lot of muddy frequencies there. And then as for effects, I've only got the compression here. So I'm getting about 8 dB of compression. Just standard attack and release here. And then a bit of EQ. So the EQ is doing quite a bit of work on this kick drum. I'll play through now. So I've put a bit of a low cut here, just up to about 40 Hz or so, just rolling off that ultra sub-y low end so it's not interfering with the kick drum, with the sub bass that much. And then as well, I've got this Pro Key 3's got a nice dynamic section now, where you can make the EQ points dynamic, so I'm using that here. And that's just bringing down this sort of area, so 300, 400 Hertz area. I've gone about this quite a lot. It's quite a muddy area that you need to pay quite a bit of attention to, especially with drums. If you're trying to sit your kicks with bass and you've got a lot of information here, it's important to keep that under control. And that's about it for the kick drum. So then we'll go into the clap, I guess. So no effects. The second sound. This is it. So there's another layer here. So this is just the main clap. And then there's another little layer that comes in. Just a bit of volume shaping on this, so it's like a little crunchy sound. So I've cut off the transient of this, so then it fits a bit better the second time it comes around. That's about it for that little sound. So this clap, once again, a bit of volume shaping here. That's the sample. It was about that. So I've just volume shaped it, just tightened it up a little bit. And then, what have I got? I've got some EQ. Just rolling off around 400, 500. See, there's a bit of information down there that you don't really want. And then just boosting a little bit, around 10k. Then, transient processor. So I use quite a lot on these higher pitch samples like claps and rim shots and stuff like that. This one's just the basic FL one you can get, but there's loads of different plugins you can use for this stuff. Like there's Oxford Transmod one. I think Waves has one as well. I think most DAWs have their own default one. So that's just adding a bit of a click at the start. And then what else have we got? We've got reverb. Just a bit of a plate reverb at the end. So then I introduced this second layer, which is just a white noise layer. Which isn't playing for some reason. Why isn't it playing? It's going through the sidechain. So this is just a little white noise layer. The envelope on it. So this is what I was meaning about the whole analog digital layering crossover thing. So without, and then with. I forgot on that. So I've just got a bit of EQ, just cutting out all the low end. And yeah, that's a nice little way to introduce more high-end instead of with claps, especially older sounding ones like this. I mean, they're quite dull and they've lost a lot of that high-end information. So if you start EQing, here the boost is only around 3 dB, as you can see. But if you're really boosting in that area, I mean, it sounds okay, but generally I like the cleaner kind of sound of the digital white noise instead of just boosting and distorting everything up there. So that's a good way to introduce that high-end information without it crushing and distorting the sound too much. And what else have we got here then on this layer? We've got some little guys. These just little perky things. As again, I've just fade them in and out with volume shaping, and then a bit of EQing here. That's that one. Same here, just a bit of volume shaping. That's about it for those. What else have we got? What's this guy? Ah, that's some cool. So there's a bit of Foley work in this. So I just went on Freesound, which is a cool website, just royalty-free samples. We've got tons and tons of stuff. You can go through there and just type in Foley or percussive or hi-hats or whatever. And then there's all sorts of cool noises and sounds you can download and then start to put those in your tracks. Same again, just fade it out. The end of this sample. Bit of EQ, and then with this sound I put Uber mod on it, so just to widen it a bit more. So with. Just a bit of a chorus, and then what else have we got? So we got this guy. So this is got the sidechain line. Just a clock ticking. And I've just sped this up so that it's in time with the track. And as you can see, it's a bit off, actually, off the grid. But that's quite cool. I didn't want it to be too rigid and on the beat. If you've got little percussive elements coming slightly off the grid, you can really have... it can have a really cool effect, and it's not too jarring if you already have like a hat every beat. And then you have these little percussive elements just off to the side or slightly off. It just gives it a bit of liveliness and makes it feel a bit more alive. So that's just without any EQing. So I've just got a low cut, just cutting out all of that low muddiness that I didn't want. Bit of a boost here. And then this is just a filter that comes in later on in the track, I think. Yep. And some reverb. This is just being automated in later on in the track, so it comes up like towards the end of the bars, I think. Like that sort of thing. So that's another cool trick you can do. I like using reverbs for that sort of thing. Just EQing in the wet time, the reverb amount, sorry, and the decay times towards the end of the bars. And what else have we got? I think that's the break. Oh no, we got the break. Got this thing playing again. So this is the break I used. So I think it's from the DOA sample pack, actually, which I think you can find. 241. Oh, it's not in there. Where is it? Yeah, DOA sample swap. So I've just cut the break. just use these individual hat parts, and then the kick, and then the cool little ghost snare thing. So first thing I did with this, as it's an old break, I gated it. So with old breaks and stuff like that, it's good to just gate things a little bit just to clean them up, and you can use gates creatively with break samples because you can alter these attack and release times, and you can create different sort of timbres of percussiveness. I know that sounds a bit weird, but so if I have the attack pretty quick, you know, I've got all the transients in there, but if I push the attack up quite a bit, cut off all those transients, and then you can start layering that, and it'll sound quite different depending on how you've laid it with the rest of your elements in the track. So I'll play the break actually. As you can hear, that's making quite a bit of a difference depending on how the attack time is set on the gate. So then I've got a transient processor. So this is doing the same thing, is I'm basically cutting out the attack and then giving it a quick release time as well. And then I have an EQ. So this is just cutting out all the low end, as you can hear, giving it a bit of a dip here. So this is where the main sort of body of the clap sort of snare is. Well, it's more sort of this area. So I boosted this area and then cut this area here. It's a bit boxy sounding. So that's a good tip with old breaks as well. You want to, like I said, this 200 to 500 area, this area is it's such a nightmare for boxy frequencies, and you really got to pay attention to it with everything, not even just bass noises. It's really prevalent in these drum sounds, especially old breaks. So dipping around there, and then finally I have a plate reverb. It's just a short, I think it's the same preset that I used before, but I tweaked it, and then only about a 20% mix. It's just a little short reverb, 0% size on this. You can it's just giving it a bit of space in the mix. You know, it sounds quite dry. And then with the reverb, it gives it back that organicness that it originally had, but it's a lot cleaner. And you're cleaning up these breaks quite a lot. It's easy to take out all the information that makes them sound unique and organic, and it's important to retain the vibes. And then finally got a bit of Saturn. This is just a little push on treble and presence band here. Like I've just got the default settings on warm tape, 20% drive. Literally like 1 dB extra presence, so without, with. There you go. And then I've got most of those layers running through a sidechain to the kick, so without the sidechain it sounds like this. And then with. And there's a couple more little layers here and there. So here's another Foley sample that I used from Freesound. It's a cracking dry wood sound. And I basically cut off little parts of it, these little... It's still going. I've just layered those in. And EQ'd quite a bit here. So I've taken out all of the mid information in this, and I've just kept the side information. So what I've done is I've low cut, just cutting out this middle area. I've taken out all of the mids, well not all, but most of the mids. There's an 8 dB reduction there. And I've just kept the sides. And it's mixed pretty low, so it's just being used as like a texture, but I just want more of that side information, you know. Because without all that side information and cool Foley stuff, it sounds a bit... I mean, it sounds okay, but it doesn't sound like crazy. So I'll mute all of the side cool squelchy bits and then just play it on its own. You know, like that sounds cool, but yeah, with those extra little elements in there. It really makes a huge difference just going in on those layers, and you know, it's not just kick, snare, break. I mean, sometimes it can be, but really if you're putting all of this cool little Foley information in there, like little side squelchy stuff and extra little layers on different hits, so that your clap isn't just the same every single time it comes in, and if you have another little layer that comes in, just makes it much nicer to listen to, and especially when you've got a long rolly track where the song itself doesn't change that much. It's important to have a lot of little layers in the background that people can keep discovering every time they're listening to it. So a lot of the demos you guys have been sending in are really, really cool musically, and in terms of production, they just need that extra little 10%, 20%, and a lot of it is this sort of thing with you know, little percussive elements in the background that you wouldn't necessarily even notice, but it gives it that extra 10-20% that you need. So it's important to focus on those kind of things. Even if you think people won't really notice it that much, it does get noticed, and it does change the feel of the track, you know. So yeah, definitely recommend doing that. So that's about it for this break. So in terms of the general mix, then what I'm doing is I have a top-down mixing approach, which, if you don't know what that means, it's just like I have a master chain already, and then I actually compress a little bit on the master using the glue compressor. It's not a very aggressive compressor, well, hence the name glue. It's just, yeah, gluing things together, for lack of a better word. Settings wise, I've got this on a 3 millisecond attack and -4 release. So it's letting your transients come through. And then I've also got the high pass function on. So it's if you look, if I take the high pass off, I'm getting like 4 dB of compression, whereas if I put the high pass up to about 80, I'm only getting about 2-3 dB of compression, which is obviously important for, as I'm compressing the master, you know. Sometimes I'll ram this up quite a lot if it's an aggressive track, but as this track is quite rolly, I just wanted to have a little soft compressor on there. And then I have a limiter. So this is transparent limiter. Which actually isn't doing anything here. And then I have another limiter with a different style. I'm using the Pro L2 here. Let's just get a little bit of a look ahead, full attack and release. It's more just for loudness, really. Just to bring up the general volume of the track. And then just a span at the end. But that's the final chain. I've got this Valhalla plate here. Oh, that's so. What I like to do sometimes is I'll put a plate reverb on the master channel, and I'll listen to how it sounds with everything running through it, and I can really pay attention to the drums. Then I think this is what inspired me to do the whole spring reverb kick on this track, because originally it was just a dull kick, and it sounded fine, but I wanted a bit more character, so then I ran everything through this. And I was like, the kick sounds really cool like that actually, so that's why I did that. But then I also have this as an effect. It comes through, I don't know, it comes through at some point in the track, but I just use it as like a little fill for a bar. That's about it really. So in terms of dB for each individual element, the kick's the centric force in this track, so it's quite loud. It's coming up to like nearly 0 dB here. Everything else just a bit quieter, sitting around like -6. The break around -4. So lots of headroom, and then all the layers blend together a little bit better when you have that top-down mixing. So what you could do is you could just have this, instead of on your master channel, you don't mix like that, you can have that as a bus. You just send everything to, and then just compress it all together. And then, yeah. That's the break. So I'm going to do another couple of videos actually where I'm going to go into, you know, making individual samples. So like how I made the little sample pack that I did last month, and then you can learn something from that. But as far as mixing and approaching a break, that's pretty much how I do it most times. Some things change depending on obviously the sound. So different kicks, you're just going to be EQing differently, but generally that's pretty much the progression that I have with creating breaks. So yeah, I hope this helps, and gonna have some more videos coming up as well over the next few weeks, so gonna go more into kicks and snares and stuff like that. And then there's the bass chains that I've just put up, and yeah, some more cool stuff to play with. And I've just finished next month's track, actually, the Patreon, so excited for that to go up. And yeah, big up yourself. Go and make some chains. Goodbye with you, and thank you. Yeah!